Back in 2006, the Virginia Department of Education was looking at post-school outcomes for students with disabilities. And we found that students weren't attending their IEP meetings. They couldn't really explain what their disability was. They couldn't really name any rights under IDEA or any accommodations they were supposed to be getting as a result of receiving special ed services. It was kind of a wake-up call. What we realized is we shouldn't be surprised that we're not seeing positive post-school outcomes because students really aren't, receiving the services they need and certainly aren't aware of what their strengths, preference, interests, or needs are. At that time, 3 different universities across the state and the Department of Ed came up with this idea of, let's focus on self-determination.
Self-determination, what we like to teach to the youth is just really being able to think through situations on your own. Doesn't mean that you're always by yourself or isolated, but it's knowing how to ask for help and when to ask for help when you need it, and then when to kind of take things on by yourself. The structure of I'm Determined, we have a statewide network that works in regions. So Virginia's split up into superintendent regions. We have youth leaders in each region, and we have what we call determinators in each region, which are the adult staff. And what we do is we combine those efforts and try to work with students, educators, and parents if they're wanting to know about how do I get my youth involved in their education. I've seen students go to their own IEP meetings and be involved or lead the meeting. What do I need to do that? That's when we can step in and say, okay, we have tools that can help you kind of prepare for something like that. But we also have these youth who have been through it and can share their story.
In elementary school and middle school, I didn't have a good understanding of my disability. All I knew was I was a little bit different because as everyone else was sitting in the class taking their test, I would always be taken out, or I'd be taken out of my classroom at random times. Going into the IMD project, I learned a lot more about myself and the struggles that I have with my disability, like my processing and my flipping of words, and not just words, but sometimes concepts and things like that. But I also learned, how to advocate for myself and what I need. To go and advocate for yourself for people who understand, it's a lot easier to put yourself out there. And once you start getting comfortable with people that you're comfortable with, it's easier to do it with people who may not understand what you're going through as much. But you have the confidence now to go out there and say, hey, this is what I need, and for me to work at my best level.
I think my own personal journey that also I think is reflective of the organization is that I came into this project thinking I have to be the advocate, that I have a lot to speak to the answers that are needed in the educational system. And I think as we've developed and we've grown, it's been a lot less of myself speaking into that and a lot more of empowering individuals with disabilities and youth with disabilities to speak into that. If I'm the one saying it instead of the youth, there's a lot of presuppositions or a lot of assumptions that I'm making about that person's experience. Whereas if it's the person speaking themselves, it's their identity, it's their world, it's their experience, and that's invaluable to hear.
I can't say I'm determined gave me a voice, but I can say that they gave me a lot of opportunities to use my voice and get comfortable with the fact that some people might not understand me, but I still get my point across.
First of all, self-determination is not an end goal. It's something you're constantly working on. It's a journey. And barriers don't end just because you graduate high school. If you go on to college, there's barriers. If you go to work, there's barriers. And watching them successfully navigate that and then share those stories with us, that's the best. That's what keeps me going.